I find that every documentary on TV, movie, and cinema's book on my shelves has a responsibility to be concise, thought-provoking, and reasonable. This belief has recently extended onto all works, including articles, YouTube videos, and the written word in YouTube comments, and if I can be honest, I mostly want to talk about my dislike of comments and their lack of conciseness, of interesting thought, of good reason to exist, but I can't really talk about that in a normal setting, nor can I in the replies of a bad comment, since that's going straight to the person who wrote it. So, this video. Firstly, I'm not going to be showing any names for the same reason I don't reply to them in the first place. I'm not scared, I just know I'm critiquing a kind of comment and not them specifically. I know I think critique is invaluable, but some will inevitably take it as hate. Hell, I take it as hate, since I find comments of critique to be irrational and opinionated 100% of the time. Secondly, I'm talking about this at peak annoyance, so forgive me if I sound jaded. I am. I am tired of seeing bad comments, rather bad takes in general, but I'll try to limit my gripes to problems that are realistically solvable for a slightly more actionable video about bad commenters. Lastly, I'm not even talking about specific comments, so those that are shown will only be as examples or for setup. 1. I posted a comment on an interview citing the interview's answers as evidence that they've grown over time and reason to expect them to become better. I received a reply along the lines of, "No offense, but do you research the interviewed is a bad person? You're right that he'll grow, but if by grow you mean grow in wealth as he does more evil." I take this out of context. I was slightly oblivious when I posted the comment, and the replier was right to respond with additional information. However, I still think that with context, there is an argument for the reply being off, since most of it was asking for my acknowledgement of controversy, and since the end of the reply that addressed my original comment was almost dismissive of the idea that videos could become better without being soulless and evil, being more interesting worded as yes, but more morbidly interesting, and more agreeable becoming more entertainment slop. I find the comments' arguments non sequitur to what they address, using language from YouTubers to argue further that the interviewed person is irredeemable and whose videos will always be evil and can't improve. The tone of which is why I'll probably make another video just about this controversy. 1.5. What I want to highlight is that the reply uses language familiar to review channels and to other comments, and making that argument with familiar language. This is something my neighbor does, and I'm not talking about this specific comment when I say I see this done badly all the time. Quotes carry with them the power of the context building up. Reading something like a book, you can write down the simplest quote and then remember the great buildup that came with it. The problem is, when you quote just the simple parts, you can get platitude-written arguments that are hard to decipher as someone unfamiliar with the quote. Or, at worst, a badly worded argument, unknowingly using a quote as a crutch. Despite sounding fine as a comment, something like, "You say this is a great country, but what about John Doe?" Or, "You say this is a great country, but what about it has dystopian business practices?" only work in the real world if you can elaborate. The citing of someone or their argument as the entire argument is bad practice, too common, and very common, even if I couldn't find a super good and recent example of that. 2. A lot of comments say bro followed by a mundane joke, which I say looks bad on the creator if it's a high percentage of their comments. I feel like it's representative of the boring and repetitive value of the videos they comment on, which are so devoid of interesting thought that they have to entertain themselves in the comments, but everyone there is in the same echo chamber called the current opinion, and themselves add nothing of interesting thought. 3. A lot of comments say bro followed by a running joke. I don't have a problem with excessive bro usage, but even without the bro, the jokes get meta and inside-y, which is to say mundane for those looking for an interesting comment. Honestly, they don't use bro all that much, but these comments still run into the same problems for the same reasons as those. No interesting thoughts. 4. Comments with wrong takes. I think there's an explanation for these as misunderstandings, but regardless, these come from a lack of reasoning and experimentation before making their conclusion. I found a comment about YouTube not allowing you to block channels that I plan to make a video on debunking, and one that mimicked real social media with several comments about a bad take that did not happen. It was implied in the middle of the video, but given explanation that disproved that interpretation near the end. Yet comments still criticized his bad take, likely from reading other comments and having their interpretation changed. The take was about AI, by the way. 5. Comments. Even YouTube videos about AI are always so annoying. Maybe I've just seen all the arguments and it's still hitting for some people, but I think they must be just liking whatever comment fits their side, regardless of context, because in the middle of a video or a comment under a random video, there'll be a quip that AI sucks, and it will spark a whole debate, comments and replies about it being a, oh my god, learning mind, a tool, a capitalist ploy, a thief. It's tiring and banal, but to look at it positively, everyone having the same banal arguments and giving the same empty platitudes is only because of the shared morality and opinion the majority shares. The majority is wrong. Watch my next video on AI. I promise it's not annoying. 6. Despite disliking these kinds of comments, I despair knowing that someone will always be in the replies defending the opposite of their opinion or saying to the truly platitudinous that it's not that deep, which it'd be so much more interesting if they critiqued the rhetoric of the arguments they're repeating than to just say that. Like, God, I'm too invested in comments, and I hate both sides of any bad comment. Feel free to comment on this, but I will expect essay level work down there with the brevity of a bullet point. All others will be tracked down and liquidated for tomorrow's morbidly interesting video filth.